appointed to the Worshipful Guild of Wax Chandlers. It was one of my goals for him, since women could not belong and my deceased husband had been so prominent in the guild. Gil did a fine job for me here. Our 4 apprentices jumped when his piercing voice ordered them to tasks he once had to do himself. I myself had jolted at his voice and stabbed the wing feathers I'd been carving on a wax angel. I would have to smooth it over. It was entirely possible to correct mistakes in wax, at least. Dear heaven, how I rued the ones I'd made in life. Why, if I hadn't been so careless, perhaps my dear Edmund might still be among the living. I slowly slid the half-carved candle under the counter so Gil would not see that this angel, like the others I'd carved, had my dead son's face again. Maud and Gil thought I was weak for mourning him so deeply, but they'd never had or lost a child. It was my sister's cross to bear that she longed desperately for one, but Maud had never conceived. The prentices were talking about seeing the Spanish princess enter London, Gil said, wiping his hands on his waxy apron. So, by the by, you going to walk our own Arthur home from school or want me to? I thought Christopher'd be calling on you again afore we close up, and I know you want someone waiting for the lad the moment he comes out the door. I was, as usual, tempted to go myself, to greet and accompany my boy home, though most of the lads walked by themselves. But Gil was right about my possible visitor. Like many a widow with a prosperous shop, I had been courted by several men, and Christopher Gage, an officer in the Worshipful Guild of Wax Chandlers, had emerged as the most determined. I was in no rush to wed again after a year alone. Though there would be much profit in our shop's assets being merged with his, I wished he would do more to make my son Arthur like him. Such a union with another chandler had helped me once, when I wed after my family died, but then, as ever in a merchant's marriage, it brought my money and skills to the Westcott chandlery too. That had been my dowry to my husband, Will, and my dower from him was this fine house and larger shop, and most of all, a kindly husband who gave me my 2 sons, though one of them was lost to me now. In truth, I was not prepared to deal with Christopher again, so I was about to say that I would walk to fetch Arthur. Then, through the shop window, panes of real glass, I thought proudly, not just thin horn, I saw a fine ebony stallion ridden to a stop just before our door. No, 2 fine horses. A well-attired couple dismounted, and the man, tall and broad-shouldered, gave a street boy a coin to hold their horses. "You'd best go for Arthur," I told Gil, standing up and shaking out my burgundy wool skirts. "Well-heeled customers, I warrant, ones I don't recognise." "So I see," he said, stooping to squint past me. And then the great adventure of my life began. On that momentous day, I, Varina Westcott, was 26, a wax chandler with a fine home and shop, a widow with a son named Arthur, after England's Prince of Wales. My other son, a 2-year-old boy, my dear Edmund, had died but 4 months past. Of course, I had suffered losses before, for my parents and brother had died of the sweat 7 summers ago. My husband's death more recently was a great blow, but by the blessed saints, how I had loved Edmund. He had so resembled me, with his curly golden hair, green eyes and slender frame, while Arthur favoured his stocky chestnut-haired father. Sweet Edmund had looked at me so piteously upon his bed, as if to cry, "I beg you, save me, mother." My summoning the apothecary, a barber surgeon, and paying much for herbal cures, bringing in a priest and saying prayers, prayers and more prayers, could not save him. Had I not kept him warm enough at night? Had I accidentally fed him something rank? Should I have seen signs of his ailment? I lit 10 perfect candles to bathe him in light at the end, but he still stepped into the valley of the shadow of death. Since then I have carried on as best I could, tending the front shop of the Westcott chandlery, while my sister Maud and her husband, Gilbert Penn, moved in with us to oversee the workshop. I put one foot before the other. I employ a solemn voice for our customers in mourning, for many of our wares are funeral candles or wax-soaked